everyone. Thank you for joining us during our Movers Gearing Up exam mental readiness. I think one of the biggest things about an assessment, an exam, a test, whatever, is that you can prepare as much as possible, but then you get to a point where you're looking at the question paper and you're like, oh my gosh. So today we're trying to reduce the oh my gosh because of probably the anxiety that might come with, I'm about to write, this is my final exam, this and that. So we've got today joining us the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, who will be facilitating our webinar today. We're very excited because the AFHCO Movers Gearing Up is all about academic support, and we've enjoyed for a couple of weeks now some tutoring sessions, but to get you mentally ready and mentally fit for all the assessments that you're about to do and the exams as well. We want to take you through the mental health, managing exam stress and anxiety. So joining us today, we have two speakers. I will introduce them individually. We've got Olwetu Kwaza, is a dedicated counselor at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, who has been with the team for 3 years. Throughout her years, she has engaged in a number of different projects, such as mental health advocacy training and workshops, as well as ongoing counseling through a developing project called Interpersonal Counseling that is spearheaded by the FPD, which is the Foundation for Professional Development. She currently works closely with Discovery Health, providing counseling for their clients and navigating their pathways of finding professional help. Can we please help me welcome Olwetu with a few rounds of applause? I'm going to move on to our next speaker today. Will be joining us. It's Gugulethu Zwane. She is a passionate mental health advocate and educator with a strong academic background, holding a Bachelor of Arts from Eduvos and a Bachelor of Social Science honors in psychology from the South African College of Applied Psychology. She has volunteered as a lay counselor and peer support group coordinator at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, and currently supervises a team on the tertiary helpline, providing critical support to students. Gugu is also pursuing a postgraduate certificate in education at Stadio to enhance her impact in both mental health and education. Welcome to both of you ladies, and we are very excited and happy to have you joining us today for the AFHCO Movers Gearing Up Exam Mental Readiness webinar. I will hand over to you because I'm not much of an expert in all of this, but we trust that we'll have a great session with you. For just some house rules, please keep your mic off and your camera off as well. We will be, as we are recording it, we will be uploading this on our YouTube channel, AFHCO, Africa Housing Company. That is AFHCO, Africa Housing Company on YouTube. So in the next few days, you will see it on our YouTube page to share with anyone that might have missed the session today. But yes, enough of talking from my side, enough of admin on my side. Let's get into all the necessary things. Thank you so much, ladies. Over to you.
Right. Thank you so much, Nofundo, and I really am happy and very grateful to be here. Just to share with Google what mental health looks like, what this buzzword actually is, and how to then use that to manage our stress during exams and the anxiety that it comes with. So we'll get started. Crystal, can we move to the next slide? Okay, so just a little bit of a breakdown as to who SADAG is. We're an organization that was founded in 1994 to help patients specifically in depression and anxiety disorders. So we are telephonic counseling, or we do telephonic counseling and provide information and referrals nationwide. We are also the only suicide crisis line in the country, and we have over 30 helplines that deal with depression, trauma, anxiety, panic, suicide, bipolar disorder, substance abuse, any single thing that a person might be experiencing that might affect their mental health. We're also available 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This is also 24 hours. We provide informative material such as brochures, pamphlets, posters, online resources. And then we also have the school outreach program, which is titled Suicide Shouldn't Be a Secret, where our counselors go out into schools and speak to pupils in high school about why suicide shouldn't be a secret. We then also host corporate wellness events. We have rural community projects and community counseling containers in Deepsloot and Ivory Park. And then we also have 100 or over 180 free support groups around the country that assist people in a range of issues that they might be dealing with. So, like I had stated in the beginning, ours is to discuss really what is mental health and what does mental health encompass. So, there's a quote here that says, because the more we talk about it, the more we empower others to say, actually, I am not okay. So this means that mental health is something that we're supposed to be speaking about. It is something that we're supposed to be bringing up in conversations, because when we do that a lot, then it helps people to go, I actually should be talking about this sort of thing. And I actually can say and have the space to say, I'm not okay and I'm dealing with a lot. So then we want to understand, what is mental health? So here we have an explanation that says mental health is your general state of mind and well-being. It is something that should be looked after and is as important as physical health. Right? So it's important to understand that while our physical health is important, whether it's at an equilibrium, it's great, or it's not good, it's important. And your mental health is the same as well. So our understanding is that when our mental health isn't in the best state, that's where we need to take care of it. But really, we should be taking care of our mental health, even though we feel it's at a good state, to maintain that state. But then there's also a difference between mental health and mental illness. And what mental illness is a diagnosed disorder. This is when our mental health hasn't been in its best state and has now caused us to maybe have chronic feelings about what we were feeling in our mental well-being and not it being good. And then now it's a diagnosed disorder. So what mental health is it's important. It's something everyone has. It's intrinsically linked to physical health. It lies on a continuum. It's worth making time for. It's part of being human. It's something we need to look after. It can range from positive to negative. It's changeable, it's complex, and it's real. But what it isn't is a sign of weakness. It's not shameful. It's not all in your mind. It's not always negative. It's not something you decide to have or something to think about only when it feels broken. It's not an interchangeable term with mental illness. It's not feeling good all the time. It's not something you can snap out of. It's not something that can't be fixed, or it's not fake news. Okay. Ours was to then tap into the different issues that we might be experiencing, especially around exam stress, right? And one of them is depression. It's very, very important to identify what depression is and what the issue around that might be. Now, depression is not only just sadness, okay? What it is that it ranges from being sad to chronic sadness. It's tied to a lot of other symptoms that don't just include being sad. Okay, so what we sort of feel or sense here is our emotions tend to then we feel sad, we feel anxious, we feel guilty, we feel very angry. There's mood swings. We are helpless, we're hopeless, we're overwhelmed, and we're irritable. Then our thoughts are also affected, where we have negative self-talk, so we talk quite negatively to ourselves. We're back to concentrate. We're struggling to make decisions. There's confusion. There's feelings about what's the point. I want it all to end. There's thoughts around suicide or death that sort of come with depression. Then we have physical symptoms where there's chronic fatigue, lack of energy, sleeping too much, or sleeping too little, which is something that we might have experienced when we're studying for exams, where it feels there's so much pressure around what it is that we're studying and not having enough time that we either sleep too much because we're procrastinating or sleeping too little because we're trying to make ends meet. We're trying to study. right? There's weight gain, there's weight loss, there's a loss of motivation, unexplained aches and pains, headaches, digestive problems, right? Then we have issues in our behavior where we're quick in terms of our temper, we're withdrawing from others. There's changes in personal appearance and moving slowly or being agitated or being unable to settle, right? It's also being very angry, right? And fighting with people who are around you. Those are some of the symptoms that we would then face with depression. Okay. Then we have symptoms of anxiety, right? So what is anxiety? Now, anxiety is this chronic fear, right? This chronic worry. So we all worry and we all feel scared at times. It's a natural feeling. Okay. But what this is when we have so much worry and so much fear that it becomes chronic. This becomes our daily lives. Okay. When someone says, I'm going to bring a little quiz for you just so you're able to study or to prepare for your exam, then that heightens your emotions. Okay. So what symptoms do we then experience when we're anxious, right? We feel frightened, we feel scared. Okay. We have a racing heart, there's chest pains, we feel dizzy, we feel very lightheaded, we feel nauseous, there's difficulty breathing, there's tingling and numbness in fingers and in our face and toes. I don't know if anyone has ever felt like their face is heating up, especially when they're feeling like they're anxious. That's something that also normally happens when we're feeling very anxious. There's hot flushes and cold sweats, feeling very disoriented and lacking concentration. So, not being able to study or not being able to concentrate on what we're studying, or even having a short term concentration, right? And then having the constant fear of losing control, having the constant fear of, I'm not going to be able to study, nor will I be able to write, or I'm going to jitter so much during the exam that I'm not going to finish my exam, or doing something embarrassing, which is I'm probably going to walk into the exam room and I'm not going to know what's on my exam paper and probably then just cry or whatever the case is. And then there's this constant fear of dying. So, what is linked to anxiety is panic attacks, right? And having a panic attack then means that we have this racing heart and we feel like it is the end of the world. And that's one of the symptoms in anxiety. Then we have stress. Now, what is stress? Okay. So stress is this feeling, this constant feeling of I have too many demands, but then I don't have resources to deal with those demands. Okay. And this can be caused by anything, right? Exams can cause stress. Unanticipated things that sort of happen to us can cause stress, right? So then what are the symptoms? Now we have some physical symptoms of stress, which is sleep disturbances, muscle tension, headache and migraines, neck and back ache, stomach problems, and digestive disturbances, as well as fatigue and insomnia, right? Now, raise up your hands if you can. Has any one of us felt these symptoms before? I'm going to raise up my hand and say I have. Sometimes when there's a submission, when I have to do something, even when there is something that we're looking towards doing, right? We then sort of feel these symptoms. Maybe your shoulders start to feel heavy and they feel a little bit painful. Okay, the next slide. Right. Then we have emotional and behavioral symptoms. So there's nervousness, there's anxiety, changes in eating habits, overeating or lack of appetite, a lack of energy, having mood swings, feeling irritated and snappy, weepiness and being sad, being tired, lack of concentration and being distracted, lack of performance and negative thinking, and being pessimistic. Now, if you notice, these symptoms are quite tied to feeling anxious and maybe depression, which means that these sort of disorders are tied to each other. And they can also be symptoms, all right, that are tied to each other. So nervousness is also a symptom that we find in anxiety, but it's also a symptom that we might find in depression because we're all different. So they're all quite tied to each other. And the important thing for us is to know what it is, what it looks like, how it presents in our bodies, so that we know how to deal with it adequately. Okay. If we're dealing with depression, we want to use the right methods to sort of deal with that, rather than using methods that you would use in stress that only work for you if you are stressed. Okay. Next slide. Right. So then what are the negative effects of stress? And we speak of negative effects of stress because stress can be good. All right. There's good and there's bad stress. And the reason for this is that if we didn't feel stress, or if we didn't feel nervous, or if we didn't feel anxious, we wouldn't be able to accomplish a lot of the things that we can accomplish. So, say, for example, or think about the first day you moved into your residence when you were admitted to university. You felt quite stressed because you had to pack all of your things and you had to put them in one, um, you know, you had to pack everything and then you had to move. While it was a good thing that you were moving from home so that you're able to go to school, it was quite nerve-wracking, okay, because you don't know what is going to happen there. But if you weren't nervous, it wasn't going to push you towards this good change that you're going to be experiencing. So that's why we know that there is good and there is bad stress. Now, how does bad stress affect you? Now, it can then have or intensify or trigger psychological illnesses. And we say this because as people, we are susceptible to psychological illnesses or disorders. This means that because of our environment, because of our genetics, because of what we've been predisposed to, there might be a susceptibility of having depression, or having substance abuse disorder, or having bipolar, or having PTSD, right? And it only just needs a trigger. So sometimes that trigger can be stress around exams, and then you find yourself in a depressive state, or stress around things that are happening at home, and then you find yourself in an anxious state. And that's why then these disorders are sort of the negative effects of stress. So we might find ourselves having panic attacks, feeling anxious, having PTSD, and the sort. Okay. Now, because we are at school, we need to identify what the difference between stress and burnout is, right? Because we use these words quite interchangeably, but then sometimes we don't know what they actually mean. So stress means that you put in too much effort into something, into trying to resolve something that sometimes you don't have control over. Okay. Things like load shedding, things like water shedding. These are things that we have no control over, right? But we want to then put a lot of effort into trying to fix them when really we don't have a way to do so. Burnout is when we find it hard to put in any effort. We find it hard to do anything. Okay. In stress, we feel emotions more strongly. We're hyperactive and anxious. We have less energy to do anything. And then it takes a physical toll. So that's when you start feeling your shoulders getting heavy, the headaches, not being able to sleep, and the sort. But in burnout, your emotions feel blunted. So you feel quite numb. You feel drained and helpless. You have less motivation, and it takes an emotional toll on you. So rather than a physical toll. So then this slide is quite important because it helps you sort of navigate or see where it is that you are. Now we have green, we have yellow, we have orange, and we have crisis. Green is when we're healthy. We have no issues. Our mood is okay. Our sleeping patterns are okay. Our eating patterns are okay. We're out socially, which means that we're doing quite well there. We don't have too many bad coping mechanisms. And then the yellow is when we start responding to things that are happening to us. So there's traffic, there's water shedding, there's load shedding, right? There's issues at school, there's issues with your modules. So now we start responding. We're a little bit nervous, we're a bit overwhelmed, we start feeling stressed. There's a bit of trouble with sleeping. We have intrusive thoughts, there's low energy. And then in the orange sector is where now our attitude is completely different. We're very negative about things. We're very anxious. There's poor performance and concentration in our tasks. We're feeling very restless. So we're sleeping a lot less. So we're sleeping a lot more than usual. And then we get to the red, which is the crisis. This is when everything is now blown out. Okay, so we're having outbursts. We're quite angry. There's excessive anxiety. There's suicidal ideation where we think this is not worth it. I shouldn't be doing this. I can't be here. Our behavior is different. Okay, we can't fall asleep, or we can't stay asleep, or we're sleeping too much or too little. So it's important for us to know and maybe identify ourselves within these colors, right? Because healthy is where we're green. But once we start going into yellow and orange, that's where we need to go. Maybe I need to get back into green, because that's what mental health means. It means being at an equilibrium, being okay, so that things don't go to, on either ends of the spectrum. Okay. So whenever we're feeling like we're yellow or orange, we need to fight to get back into healthy, because once we get into red, that's when we move from mental health to mental illness. So what self-help tips are there when we're feeling like this? So we then do a mental health check-in regularly, which we'll do in the next slide. But we identify our support system or our tribe, that we can turn to when we need help. So that your friends, your family, those are people that you can turn to. Find places you can reach out to if you're struggling. So places like SADAG, okay, other organizations that you know that are really helpful, a counselor at school, okay. Connect with others and share helpful resources. So something like a support group can help you in this regard, or knowing someone who's really, really helpful in sharing these resources that are quite helpful for you. Then sharing inspirational quotes, songs, or pictures to start the day. That's always quite nice, maybe to search quote of the day and then look at that quote so it sets your entire mood for the day. And then asking for help when you're not okay. All right. And then doing things that fill your cup daily. So, other than just doing schoolwork and all of these other things, but getting creative, listening to some music, doing some physical exercise that pours into your cup. How do we then do a mental check in? Okay. We have to rate our mood from a scale of 1 to 10. How am I feeling today? Okay, right? And then ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Like I've just done. Have I eaten? When last did I walk around, take a stretch? I've been seated at my table for 3 hours. That's not going to do you any good. Have I gone outside today? Have I smelled some fresh air? Have I had some water? Right? And then how's my body feeling? Do I have a backache? Are my shoulders heavy? Um, what am I feeling in my body? Right? Is my stomach in knots? And then taking a deep breath to remind yourself that you only just have to breathe. You only are alive to quite literally breathe before all of the responsibilities that you have. And then think about what is taking up most of your headspace at that current point in time. Is it exams? Is it trying to study? Okay. What is it that is taking up a lot of your time? Okay. Next slide. So then practical tips that we can use, right? And I would like us to stick to the positive coping styles here, which is doing those self-care tips that we've just shared, but also doing de-stressing techniques that help you to sort of de-stress and move from being up here to maybe being at an equilibrium. Doing relaxation skills as well, or some things that promote relaxations and sensory coping skills, right? Whether this is touch or listening to music. And then emotional coping skills. What do we do to then soothe and cope with our emotions, especially when we're not feeling too good? Then we need to negate negative coping styles, which means we need to move away from these, which is living a bad or having bad habits, or embedding yourself in a bad lifestyle, comfort eating, okay, sleeping too much, overindulging in legal substances and using illegal substances, as well as the excessive use of the internet, because that can pour into the negative self-talk and thinking negatively about yourself. Next slide. Okay. So the self-care tips, right? Eating healthy food, getting enough sleep, usually about 6 to 8 hours, exercising regularly, practicing good hygiene. Okay, so take a shower, right? Smelling good really, really does wonders for you. Take time out, positive self-talk, and create an effective balance between work and your personal life. Okay, knowing that there's time for work, but then there's also time for yourself where you need to lead your own life outside of schoolwork and all these other things that we have. Okay. So I'd like us to take a mindful minute, okay, where we take a breath and breathe through our nose and then breathe through our mouth. Okay. So if you're seated on your bed, on a chair, I'd like you to sit upright, and we'll just do this for a couple of minutes. Okay. So we breathe in and hold it for 4 seconds and breathe out for 4 seconds. And I'll count for you. Let's breathe in through our nose and out. Notice how calm you feel. And while I go through the rest of the mindful minute, continue breathing like that. So listen to the sounds around you. Can you name at least different sounds? You can put them in the chat if you want to. Name at least 5 different sounds that you can hear. I can hear birds outside. I can hear also the other counselors in the call center. What can you hear? Maybe just one person who can tell us what they can hear. Okay. Mfunda says she's hearing people singing, typing, that's happening around her. That's good. Okay. Think about the things that you can hear. And then around you, describe an object that is around you that you can see. Okay. I have a couple of things here. I have the phone. I have my personal phone. I have a bottle. I have a muffin that I've saved for later. Okay. What can we see around us? Okay. But then also think about the things that you can touch, right? I have a USB that I'm touching right now, my laptop, my phone, the table, my fingers, right? And doing this, taking this mindful minute sort of helps you relax, okay? But also recognize that you're just a human being and that all you need to do is breathe, quite literally. Okay. Before all of these responsibilities, before I am always who's a counselor at SADAG, who's a sister, who's a daughter, I need to take this minute to think about myself and my breathing. Okay. Because at times we're doing so much. There's a lot happening in our lives that we forget that we're actually breathing and we're not breathing correctly. We're either taking short breaths or we're taking long breaths, right? So this is quite, it's something that we really do need to look into. Okay, I see the chat is booming here. And I think this is very, very important to look into. Are we breathing correctly? Right? Am I taking in the amounts of breaths that I'm supposed to be taking in? Do I have a pulse? Okay. Okay, then it's important for us to check our battery, all right? And I think this is a nice sort of picture to take a screenshot of, right? Where if you're pink, it means that you're empty, you don't like you're feeling drained, and it's important for you to then identify what is making you feel drained. In orange, we're struggling. In yellow, we're not feeling too good, not feeling too bad. In green, we're feeling okay. In blue, we're feeling quite good. In purple, we're feeling great, right? This is also another sort of image that helps you identify where you are, what's your battery looking like. And that's a good way to also assess what it is that you can do during that day and what you can't do, right? Noticing what you can and cannot control. So then 10 ways to look after our mental health, right? Talk about your feelings, right? Open up to someone that you're comfortable with and talk about what it is that you're feeling. Eat well, okay, and keep active. Okay, and eating well really means that cook the food that you're eating. Eat really like um don't have too big portions of food, okay? Because if you eat too big, then you have itis, then you feel like falling asleep. So then you don't get things that you're supposed to do done on that day, right? Always take a break, okay? No matter what you're doing, if you're on TikTok, take a break. Okay, always take a break because it really does help. Okay, your brain needs to process what is going on. And if you're filling it with too much information, it's not going to know what it needs to do. Drink sensibly when you are drinking. Okay, don't go over the limit and don't overindulge. It's not going to help you, it's only going to make you feel worse. Keep in touch, speak to people. Okay, don't use the excuse that, oh, I need to video call my mom, so that's probably why I just don't like do it anymore, because it's a lot and it takes time and this and this. Keep in touch with people that are close to you, and also try and engage in something that you're good at. It makes you feel good. Lose touch of your hobbies and your personal life outside of school. Accept who you are. Okay, love who you are. Okay, you only have this body, you only have this person. Okay, you can change things that you're not very happy with, but you need to accept that who you are. ask for help, and care for others. Caring for others also pours into yourself, so you're filling that cup at the same time. Right. And then invest in your mental health. And how do we do that? Get outside, do some activity, okay? Do a mindfulness exercise, connect, reflect with gratitude. Say, today I'm grateful for having woken up. Today I'm grateful for having a plate of food, right? Help others, all right? Be kind to others, because then you then recognize that you need to be kind to yourself. Talk to someone, breathe, like we've said. Okay, fill up your energy with things that you need to do, and then plan and organize the things that you have to do according to your battery. Plan the things that you need to do, or the things that you're able to do and accomplish on that particular day. Okay, resources. So there is hope, and there is help, and so these are the different ways in which you can contact us. All right. So how SADA can help in an emergency? We do crisis intervention, okay, and we speak and counsel someone who needs help, right? We assist and we guide, and then we do referrals to doctors, to hospitals, and we give counseling as well. And then we also do case management, where we take you from one place to the other to ensure that you've received the help that you require. Okay, resources. So there is hope, and there is help. And so these are the different ways in which you can contact us. All right. So how SADA can help in an emergency? We do crisis intervention, okay, and we speak and counsel someone who needs help, right? We assist and we guide, and then we do referrals to doctors, to hospitals, and we give counseling as well. And then we also do case management, where we take you from one place to the other to ensure that you've received the help that you require. Okay. Next slide.
So the next slide is about higher health. So
Okay. All right. I
yeah,
think I'll just give
I'm
it.
more than
I'll give
happy
it
to take
yeah.
over there. All right. So with all of that said, what assistance do you guys have access to? So you guys have access to the higher health, mental health helpline number. So with this higher health mental health helpline number, it operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. So when we say at SADAG, we don't sleep, we mean it literally. So I'm one of the counselors that man the higher health helpline. I supervise the tertiary team in whole. So the free telephonic counseling that you guys would receive, it's very personal, it's very intimate, and the team, a lot of them are either currently studying or they had just finished their studies, so they can be able to relate with you and provide that empathy that maybe an individual who hasn't been in varsity or tertiary rather for a longer time. So in addition to that, we also assist with health related issues, crisis intervention. So this means that if at any point maybe you are in a crisis, whether you're struggling with suicide ideation or you've taken something to try, take your life, we can now access our resources at higher health and ensure that we get you the assistance that you need. We do follow-ups and case management. So in a situation whereby we escalate your case to a professional and they say to you, your next appointment is going to be in the next 2 weeks. So a lot of institutes are currently inundated. So because of them being inundated, we need to make sure that the students are kept afloat and are coping until they see their psychologist for more in-depth counseling sessions. So we do those case managements whereby we would call you on a regular basis just to find out how you're doing. Are you okay? Are you managing? Are you keeping afloat? And if not, we provide you support, we provide that assistance, and we just create a plan with you just to help ensure that you are managing until your session. We have nationwide referrals and resources, and you guys will have access to over 170. It's actually 170 and not 160 plus free support groups, which range from general mental health, academics, men's mental health. And I know that with males, it's a very, very, very big thing. So you guys would have access to that. Then we also provide information, handouts, and brochures. And I also must say, so a lot of the times we're dealing with, students, they are afraid to open up because they feel like maybe their information will be, disclosed to the lecturers or any other person, and they don't want that. So if you do call into the helplines, you can remain anonymous. However, I must put it out there that if you are hoping to get referred to a university psychologist or to a higher health psychologist, rather, we do need certain details from you. So even though you can remain anonymous, details like your student number, your faculty, your campus, your contact number are very important because that's how the psychologists locate you, and that's how you can get an appointment. Our conversations and our calls are strictly confidential, and we do see an increase in the number of calls every single month, which is a very good thing because it's an indication that the work that we are tirelessly, working towards and doing is making an impact, and we are working every single day to try break that stigma. So to reach out to the higher health helpline number, this is the number that you guys can reach out to. There's also an SMS number that also operates 24 hours a day. Then you can also make use of the SADAG website. Then, in addition to this, also we have partnered up with Discovery, whereby we provide free mental health services for all the medical students. And to get assistance, this is the toll-free number that you can make use of. Like any other number, it operates 24 hours a day, and it is also toll-free as well. Then my baby, so the peer support groups. So I coordinate and facilitate trainings for the peer support group. In addition to that, I host the SADC peer support group. So what do we mean when we talk about peer support groups? So a peer support group is a space whereby students come together to provide a safe space for each other. It's a group ran by students, for students, with students, just to have that sense of community, just to have that sense of commonality. Being in a tertiary environment can be so isolating, can be so intimidating, and can be so nerve-wracking. And to have a support group whereby you are with other like-minded peers, whereby you guys can address student related challenges that you guys are facing. And some of the topics that we unpack in peer support groups include academic stress, exam stress, time management, procrastination, conflict management, self-love, and the list goes on. So this just helps students connect with each other, share different coping skills and tips that can be very helpful, and just reach out and build that network. Like I said, it can be very isolating. Earlier on, Oluwatu mentioned that, as a tertiary student, a lot of the times you leave your hometown, you leave your comfort space, and you move completely away from your loved ones, and you don't know anyone, and that on its own can be very, very, very nerve-wracking. So to meet with other peers and build your social network, the peer support group can help with that, and it also helps to prevent negative outcomes. So unlike all the other SADC support groups, the peer support group is more preventative, opposed to supplementary. So what I mean by that, I mean that so we work towards ensuring that we prevent anything from happening, and you don't get to a state whereby you have to be diagnosed or you have to be on medication, or alternatively you have to see a psychologist. And I can definitely say that it acts as a bridging gap between the students and a lot of the times, with certain universities or certain institutes, the student counseling development, right? If you guys are interested in joining a peer support group, or let alone starting your own peer support group to facilitate that safe space for yourself and other students, you can email me. This is my email address, or you can reach out to the Higher Health Helpline number. Then myself or any other of the university counselors will assist you in that regard. Then these are just the mental health resources that are very helpful, and we really thought that sharing this with you would also, kind of give you guys some direction if you're not okay, and if you are struggling. So the setup website whereby we share a lot of information. There's videos that we share, there's brochures, there's questionnaires. So if maybe you are struggling with certain symptoms, you can go in the questionnaires and just basically test yourself. It's like a self-test, just to determine if you are struggling, with specific symptoms. And based on the results of that questionnaire, then you can reach weekly webinars that we run on Facebook. So we call them Facebook Fridays, whereby we bring in different experts to unpack different topics. So the topics can range from substance abuse, they can range from depression and how that affects one's productivity, whether at school and at work. And it's very informative. And I would really, really, really advise that you guys join in maybe on one Friday, just to kind of like gain more knowledge, and better inform yourself on mental health and mental illness. Then with the safety plan, so SADAC has worked towards compiling a mental health safety plan. So this is very important just to ensure that your well-being and your mental health is in check. So if you are struggling with any challenges and you're feeling distressed, a mental health safety plan helps to just kind of alleviate that distress and just to help mitigate any feelings of feeling down, or if just to also mitigate rather suicide ideation, because a lot of the times, with if you are struggling with certain symptoms and they go untreated or unnoticed, they do lead to suicide ideation, right? It's just a plan that we go through it with you just to help you manage, those days where you're not okay, where you're feeling off, and ensure that you have the correct support network to help you maneuver through that situation. So when we're creating a mental health safety plan, what do we look at? So we look at identifying your triggers. It's very important to be aware of your triggers. The more aware you are of your triggers, the better it is to mitigate them and work towards managing them. So what triggers you? So noting those triggers down so that you are aware of it, then creating a safety support. So when you're feeling distressed, when you're not okay, who can you go to? Who can you turn to? And you write down the name, the relationship of that individual, and the contact number of that individual, so that if at any point you are feeling very low, you know exactly who to contact, so you have that safety support. Then the distractions. What can you do to help distract you? So this can mean, can I take a walk? Can I journal? Can I play soccer, or whatever activity that you find pleasure in, that you enjoy doing, that can help distract you, shift your mind and shift your focus from whatever it is that is stressing you or that is making you feel distressed in that moment, and kind of like focus on something else. Okay. Then lastly, my safety. So where can I go? Which place of safety can I go when I'm not okay? So can I go to my friend? Can I go to my boyfriend or my girlfriend? Can I visit back home? Is it sensible to travel back home? Does it make sense? So noting all of these things down, just so that you have a plan. Okay, it's better to prepare, than to be stuck in a situation and you don't know what to do and you're grappling to find a solution. So when it's already planned, when you are feeling low, when you're not okay, you know exactly where to turn to, you know exactly what to do step by step. It is very helpful. Like we said, we are going to share the slides, but you're more than welcome to take a picture of the slide specifically. Then looking at, the relationship between students, anxiety, and exam stress. What does that look like? And, how does it manifest as a tertiary student? So we're going to look at the factors that definitely increase and perpetuate one's stress levels and anxiety, especially in the university setting. So we do see a lot of challenges regarding finances and living arrangements, whereby students are really stressing about their finances. They don't know how they're going to pay for the next semester. They don't know what they're going to eat, where they're even going to live. However, they put themselves in that situation because they want to better themselves, they want to upskill themselves. But it is a very big stressor that we do see with university students, relationships as well. I don't know how many times I've gotten calls of students that say, "Oh my gosh, I'm not okay. He ghosted me or she ghosted me," and it's a very, very, very big stressor. And quite frankly, I don't think it's a stressor that is only experienced by university students, but I think as individuals, as human beings, in general, responsibility as well. So, transitioning from, that adolescent stage to adulthood, that comes with a lot of responsibility, that comes with a lot of independence, and that can cause so many stress. A lot of students, we do see that, the family back at home is literally counting on them to, feed them or to send money. And that's a lot of responsibility for, a university student, whereby you're trying to juggle your academics, you're trying to juggle your social life, you're trying to juggle being independent. On top of that, there's this now added responsibility of probably taking care of people at home and all of that. So it is very overwhelming. Academic pressure, whereby if you're not stressing about assignments, it's a test. If it's tests, it's exams, and all of that is so overwhelming. There's a lot of pressure probably coming from back at home to complete this degree. And as individuals ourselves, we have standards, whereby we know that we want to get this done. In order for us to get this done, then this is what it has to take. And that is very overwhelming. Transitioning to university, like I said, adapting to learning. So, high school learning and varsity learning is not the same. In high school, one can definitely say that, there's a whole lot more of babying, and coddling. Whereas in varsity, it's like you do what you have to do. If you don't do it, you don't do it. And if you do, then you do. And all of that can be very overwhelming. And trying to like adapt to that change is not easy. The workload is intensified in varsity. And I think also with the way in which you perform, your 40s and your 30s are no longer acceptable in varsity because there's so much pressure. And now you need to work harder to attain better marks. Family and relationships, the economic stress in the family, like I mentioned, trauma that one may experience. We get a lot of bullying, grief, the death of a loved one, that can take a toll on you, not just emotionally, but also psychologically and physically as well. Chronic illness and performing poorly academically. Ah, my gosh, the whole issue of academic exclusion is a big thing, and it is a real thing in varsity, whereby if you're not performing well, they give you the first chance, and if you still flunk the second time around, then they cut you, they exclude you academically. And all of that is so overwhelming. It also kind of like perpetuates that pressure and that anxiety to perform well. And if you don't perform well, you know that there are repercussions which are not, ideal. Then being overly critical, self-critical of yourself, you get to this environment, and I'm gonna, make reference of like girls because I can relate to that as a female. You get to varsity, you see these girls are wearing weaves, these girls are wearing eyelashes, and you look at yourself with your natural hair, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't fit in, and you become so self-critical, and all of that builds a lot of stress and anxiety because you want to fit in, you want to have that sense of community and that sense of belonging. So that can also take a toll on you, feeling like you're an outsider as well. Substance abuse, which is a a big thing that we see with tertiary students. And I'm not going to sit here and be oblivious to the fact that, some of you drink, some of you smoke, but I think also when it starts to become a habit that you are completely dependent on in order to function, then it does become very problematic, and it does intensify stress and anxiety, and also feeling overwhelmed as well. Then how to identify the warning signs. So now this is us talking about warning signs in you and in other people. So I'm going to specifically focus on how do you see the warning signs in other people, so that you know that, okay, this individual is not okay. The way in which they talk. So a lot of times, they will say things like, I wish I would just disappear. Everyone would be better off without me, or everyone would be better off if I was dead. And sometimes they say it, sometimes they post it. So just taking note in the things that people say, and this means that we have to be very intentional about implementing active listening, not listening to respond, not listening to provide solutions, but listening to understand what the next person is saying rather. And then we see behavioral signs whereby they withdraw from their loved ones, or they withdraw themselves. You would see an individual, they normally like a bubbly person, they normally enjoy being around people and being in crowds, but now all of a sudden they isolate themselves and they're very withdrawn. We also do see there's drastic changes in their eating and sleeping habits. So either they eat too much or they eat too little, which will either result to weight loss or weight gain, or they sleep too much and they sleep too little, which will ultimately affect their energy levels. Then we also do see that individuals tend to get very agitated, they get very snappy, I would say. And in some cases, individuals would say their goodbyes and they would start giving away their valuables. And in that moment, you may be confused that, why is Olwetu now, giving me her favorite t-shirts? This is a sign that actually Olwetu is preparing, herself to, not be alive anymore. Then with mood signs, we do see that individuals tend to lose interest a lot of the times in the things that they normally enjoy doing. So if an individual enjoys playing soccer, now all of a sudden they're not attending practice. Now all of a sudden they're not going to games for no apparent reason. They isolate themselves from friends and family. They are filled with rage and that irritability. Then that is also accompanied by symptoms of depression and anxiety, whereby an individual maybe would have that sense of helplessness and hopelessness. An individual would intense fear of something. Their heart maybe would start racing very fast. And obviously we know that, okay, we now have to start asking those questions. Are you okay? Is there anything you would like to talk about? I'm here for you, so that you show that individual that you are taking note of the different changes that they are now exhibiting, and you are there for them. Right. So we need to try to talk, listen, connect with other people as well. Then what to do if you do notice any of these signs, start the conversation. Like, how are you feeling today? I noticed yesterday that you were very irritable, that you were very withdrawn. Is everything okay? By asking those questions, firstly, it shows that you do care. It shows that their presence matters. So in order for Olwezi to notice that I was very withdrawn and irritable yesterday, clearly my presence in her life or in her space matters. And that will kind of like probe people to open up more, right? Share resources. Any resources that you have access to or that you know them, share them. There's nothing that pisses me off like people who are gatekeepers. So don't be a gatekeeper, especially with mental health and mental illness. Share self-help tips as well. If you've tried a self-help tip and it has worked for you, then share it for the next person. And it may work, it may not work, and that is okay. As long as you shared it, you never know how it will impact them. Okay, encourage people to get help and to get the support. Connect with them. Building that support system. Get a professional to assist you. Join those support groups that are available. The free counseling. There's a lot of NGOs that can help SADC and all the other existing NGOs, and ultimately lead by example. Okay, you can't fill from an empty cup, and I know that sounds cliche, but for myself and Olutu as counselors, how do we begin to hold space for individuals and provide that support if we ourselves are not okay? So in order for you to be there for the next person and to provide adequate support for the next person, you need to be okay. And being okay means that you need to feel that cup and invest in your mental health as well. Right. Then a moderate amount of stress can be good. Like Oluti said, so there's two types of stress. You get your good stress and you get your bad stress. And the moderate amounts of stress can be good to a certain extent. I think it's all about being self-aware and knowing your limits. Okay, so it can definitely sharpen concentration and performance, and help create that energy and motivation. For me personally, I can't do anything if I'm not stressed to a certain extent. So it helps build that motivation and to build that energy. So in order for me to perform to the best of my ability, I need to be a tad stressed. However, I know my limits. I know when I'm severely stressed and I need to take a break. Okay. And too much stress can definitely destroy motivation, and it can trigger other negative coping strategies, whether that is substance abuse or self-harm. Okay, so it's very important to avoid those negative thoughts. Okay, and I think part of avoiding those negative thoughts is being proactive. Okay, if you feel like maybe let's think about the mental health spectrum that Olutu spoke about earlier on, the green, the yellow, orange, and red. Okay, reach out to a friend, a colleague, a counselor, a tutor, a family member, just to get that motivation back again. All right. And in your life, you will be far more than your academic achievements. So your academic achievements and performance does not define you as an individual. I know so many students who have done poorly, in the first half of the academic year, and they reach out and they get assistance and they realize that actually this does not define me. However, I will use this negative outcome as a driving force, as a driving factor to do better, because this situation does not define me. This is not who I am. So just remember that, because it can be very easy to get sucked into that hole whereby you feel like your value or your worth is solely based on your academic performance, and that is not the case. Before you are a student, you are a human being. Just being a student only encompasses a specific part of you, and that is not forever. Right? So it's very important to remember that as well. Organize your time. As a university counselor, I can't stress this enough, whereby you need to be intentional about organizing your time, all right? And this means that you need to plan accurately and accordingly. And part of planning accurately and accordingly is setting realistic goals for yourself. You're writing a test tomorrow. Does it make sense to try study the entire coursework a night before? No, it doesn't. So what does that mean? Now, it means that you have to be studying probably weeks in advance or months in advance to better prepare you for that test. Okay, so draw up a weekly timetable. In drawing up your weekly timetable, look at all the different modules that you have that you tend to in addition to that, allow for the unexpected as well. Anything can happen. You think you're gonna, prepare for your exam or for your test, early, then all of a sudden you fall sick. So those are the things that are unexpected that you need to prepare for, and that is part of organizing your time wisely. Be realistic about how much time you spend on revising. It's very, very important to be realistic about that, and also allow yourself to take some time to relax or to regain your energy. And a nice way to do this is by implementing the Pomodoro technique, whereby you study in intervals and include breaks there. So, for example, you would study for like 45 minutes, maybe an hour, then you take a 5 minute break, then you study again for 45 minutes or an hour, you take a 5 minute break. And in that 5 minute break, you're not on TikTok, you're not on Instagram, you are not drinking or whatever. You are using those 5 minutes wisely, whether it's by taking a walk, whether it is by doing a mindfulness technique, whether it's by making yourself a snack so that you can get energized as well. Okay, then plan revision periods by topic or chapters. Okay, and a lot of the times that means that if you're struggling with a specific topic, obviously it would be wise for you to start with that topic or to start with that chapter, as opposed to the one that you're relatively comfortable with. Okay, if one topic is much more bigger than the other, it would make sense to start off with that topic, then move on in that way. Okay, stick to your deadline. So don't say, I'm going to study for 45 minutes, then say, oh no, maybe let me add an extra 5 minutes. By the time you add that extra 5 minutes, you've now dismantled your entire plan, and it's no longer it doesn't work anymore. Okay, so be very, very mindful about that. Prioritize important topics again as well. Set specific goals for each revision period. What does that mean? So for Psych 101, I'm going to do chapter 1 and 2 today. Then you know that, okay, that's a very specific goal. You know that for you, it's very realistic. Okay, it's very specific. You're going to tackle this chapter and the next chapter. In addition to that, maybe you're going to add another module in there. So be very clear about that. Then stay off internet, like I said. It's such a powerful, way to kind of like trap you and take, over your time. I'm going to make an example with like Netflix or a series. That's why one advice, if there's anything you take away from this talk, never start a new series during exam time. That is a trap, because you're going to watch one episode and be like, oh my gosh, okay, after this episode, I'm done. By the time you realize, it's like 4 a.m. and you're literally finished with the series. Because you say, no, after this one, I'm done. Then the next one comes and like, okay, no, after this one, I'm done. So never, 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 never do that, and stay off internet. TikTok reels, they are very addictive. They pull you in. You will constantly be scrolling, and also it takes away from your energy. So that time you could be using to sleep, and you're on social media. You wake up tomorrow, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're writing an exam, and you're physically and psychologically incapable of writing that exam to the best of your ability because you haven't received enough rest. Then sleep hygiene. Do not work, or go to bed with, the work. It's very distracting. So you know that you're, but for me personally, when I get on my bed, I'm sleeping. So, trying to work or study on my bed is not going to be helpful because my mind and my body is so programmed that when I get on there, automatically I get tired. So trying to have like a study space or workspace for you can be very helpful. Just to eliminate those distractions. Okay, then stop working at least an hour before you go to bed, just to give yourself some downtime as well. Okay, it will help with regards to not only relaxing and preparing yourself for bed, but also the encoding of the content that you have studied. Stick to your regular bedtime and get up on time. Okay, maintain good sleeping patterns. 6 to 8 hours a night are recommended. And I think this is still subjective, the 6 to 8 hours are recommended because as individuals, we're not the same. There's people who can function very well with like 7 hours of sleep, others 4 hours of sleep, others not so much. So you need to be aware, implement what works for you. So if you are fully functional and okay with 4 hours of sleep, that is completely fine as well. So do not drink too much. Okay, be sure to utilize your body at least 20 minutes a day. This means whether you're taking a walk, whether you are doing yoga, just try to keep active at least for 20 minutes a day, just to kind of help your blood circulate and your body moving. Then study patterns. Take regular breaks from studying, and a good way to do this or to implement this is through the Pomodoro technique, like I had mentioned earlier on. And when you notice that you are getting distracted, get up and take a break. So it doesn't help sitting at that desk trying to study when you are clearly aware that you are getting distracted. By doing that, I think you're taking up more energy, and you're not being productive. So trying to sit there is not conducive. Rather, just get up, take a break, and come back refreshed, right? With the focused mindset now. Okay, 15 minutes when you can concentrate, it's better. Okay, then 3 hours of starting the space, then you feel guilty and anxious. Then sleep properly. Use social media app timer on your phone just to help regulate your social media use. Okay, then basic revision methods. Firstly, be ready when you're taking notes. Before you can take notes, read the content first. So skim through the content, then take down your notes, seek answers to the questions, right? And making use of whether it's past papers, and all of those things can be very helpful with this, and be active in your reading as possible. So I talk to myself when I study. It helps me remember the content, and it also helps me make sense of what I'm studying. So just try to steer away from the CPF methods. Yeah, it doesn't work to a certain extent, I guess. But talk to yourself. If you study well by using colors, then do that. If you study well, just I think making use of your five senses can be helpful, whether it's touch, taste, smell, hearing, and sight. Okay, walk around the room, speak into a tape recorder so you can listen back, remind yourself as well. Okay, then close your notes, and then once you've done closing your notes, you actively recall what you've just been reading, what you've just been studying. Then ask again the same questions without looking at the notes. This will assess if you do remember the content, and write down what you recalled in brief notes. Okay, check the original notes with the ones that you had written down, and if you record the answers, then that's great. This kind of like helps, it's like a marking system just to determine what you remember and what you don't remember. Then you by doing that, you've created a master card, okay, which you can use to revise without having to consult the lengthier notes. Okay, If you don't have any questions that have been answered, then you go back to your original notes. You remind yourself, you revise, you study again. Go to the content that you struggled with, go to the content that you've missed, and focus on that. Then you repeat this for 2 hours, 4 hours, and just make sure that while you're doing this, you are still taking the regular breaks. Then on the day of the exam, do not try to learn any new topics. It will literally impair your ability to recall anything else that you've learned. So look at some notes briefly, some revision cards as well. Do not study for the last hour before an exam, right? And I think with this one, your time of arrival, just make sure that you arrive on time at the exam room, and do not wait, outside with others. I used to avoid this at all cost. I would avoid standing with people because there would be chitter chatters that, did you study this? What is this? Do you understand this? It would give me so much anxiety. And I would just freak out. And by the time I need to now start writing my exam, I'm so flustered that I can't now study and I can't recall the information that I know very well that I've studied and I've prepared for. So if you do get flustered easily, if you do get anxious easily, just avoid being around people, just to avoid those little chatters that go on outside while you guys are waiting to enter the exam room. Give yourself time to settle before reading the questions. And, doing a mindfulness technique can help so much with this, or doing a breathing exercise can help so much with this to help regulate you and calm you down, because it's normal to feel anxious just before you're going to start writing. And have a plan of how you will use your time in the exam room. So if your paper is 3 hours, how will you plan just to ensure that firstly you answer or you finish answering all the questions, and secondly you don't lose focus? So do you start with all the questions that have more marks, or do you start with all the questions that require more time? Or so just plan that and have like plan that and have an idea of how you will tackle that. That also will help to reduce the anxiety and feeling flustered. Then relaxation techniques, focus your attention on counting your breaths. Okay, feel your heart beat racing. Okay, close your eyes, breathe slowly and deeply for a few minutes. Locate any areas of tension. So do I have a headache? Is my back painful? Are my shoulders painful? Are my feet painful? Just to kind of like focus on that. Then gently stretch while you're sitting down. Okay, then give yourself a treat each day, right? This is very helpful because it helps to build your momentum when you're studying. It just helps to reward you and kind of like help you motivate yourself that actually I can do it, and it gives you something to look forward to, right? Then physical activity, engaging in those things, using your imagination. Guided imagination really helps as well. So imagining maybe a time when you were happy, imagining a time when you were relaxed, or a time when you were feeling very calm, okay, and being in harmony with others. All of that can contribute to reducing stress and obviously prompting relaxation as well, okay. Yeah, with the herbal preparations and the homeopathic remedies, they are available, but it's always important to consult with obviously a qualified practitioner with regards to these. Then have a checklist, okay? Know your exam schedule and put it everywhere as much as you can, whether it's on your wall, your fridge, on your phone. I used to make my exam timetable my screensaver, so that because I'm constantly on my phone, when I open my phone, it's the first thing that I see, and it's a constant reminder. Others would put it at the back of their phones, inside their covers, in their rooms. So I had it in my car as my screensaver, on the fridge, and in my study area, so that I see it as much as I can and I remember it. Okay. Make a checklist of things you need for your exam. Do I have a pen? Do I have an extra pen? Do I have a third pen just in case the second one doesn't work? Do I have, the ruler or the calculator if I'm writing maths? Do I have everything that I need to write this exam? Okay, debrief after each exam. Don't dwell on it. Even if you did struggle with the question, it's very easy to, get swallowed into those shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Why didn't I? I should have. And it's very overwhelming. And that also impedes your ability to now focus and prepare for the next exam that you may have. It's okay, move on. This is the next paper to focus on, right? And all you can do is study, and everything else becomes out of your control. Focus on your next paper. So, what is next, all right? And not dwelling on the past. So think of, like, any predictable questions. Just try to think back to that lecture. Did your lecturer say anything, or was he repeating a specific section? You know, study that section, and will there be any compulsory sections in your exam that you have to do? Try to focus a lot on that, and do a schedule for the time left before the next exam. So always plan adequately for the next paper, right? Then maintain a balanced routine. Routine definitely builds resilience, also discipline as well. In addition to that, allow yourself for debriefing and regrouping. Seek that motivation. If you're not okay, give us a call. We'll chat through it. We will work around it, and that's why the helpline is there for you guys. So make use of us as best as you can. It really will help, and it really will go a long way. Then also, sleep hygiene as well. So sleep at a specific time, avoid alcohol or any other substance. In addition to that as well, internet as well. So be very strict with yourself. Keep a healthy diet. Remember the saying that says you are what you eat. So avoid fast foods, especially during that period whereby you need to be focused, you need to be resilient, and you need to be very sharp and on the ball. So fatty food, sugar, salt, and all of those things, try to avoid them. Keep healthy snacks, make smoothies if you can, just to help, because a lot of the times students would struggle to eat, and they say, I don't get time to cook, I don't have the time because I come back, I'm tired, maybe I take a nap, I have to study for the next paper, and they neglect eating. So making smoothies, meal preps as well. On a weekend, prep your meals. So cook so that you have enough food for the whole week, and you don't have to be stressed cooking during that period. Okay, don't overhype the importance of any exam. All right, remember that there are always other chances, and other ways to reach your goals. Right, don't isolate yourself. At least once a week, connect with friends, peers, family. Keep in touch with them. You don't necessarily have to go and visit, but there's so many different ways now. There's video chats and all of that. So make use of those things, and just like join others, go outside, just to engage and to connect with other people as well, right? Then how to help someone in need. Ask, help, listen, connect, right? Listening, implement that active listening. Ask questions if you're not sure, and connect with them. And I think another good way to connect with people is to use your own experiences so that other people can see that actually I'm not on an island. Because a lot of times when we're going through some challenges, we tend to feel like we're on an island. And when we hear that other people have struggled with similar challenges, it helps us realize that actually this is normal and I'm not on an island. There are other people who have struggled with what I'm struggling with, and I can get through it because they have. So automatically you become the reference for that individual to work towards getting better. Things to not say when an individual is not okay. Things like think positively, pull yourself towards yourself and get on with it. Just get over it. Don't think about it. Snap out of it. It's all in your mind. Just do some exercise and you'll feel better. But you have everything to be grateful for, and there are people with far less. This is so invalidating. This It invalidates what the next person is feeling, what the next person's experiences. And this is not how we connect with other individuals. And I always say, before you say something, think about it in this way. If someone had to say it to me, how would I feel? Would I like it? Would I not like it? And if the response is I would not like it, then definitely don't say it to the next person as well. So think about it in that way, because a lot of times we don't know what to say and we struggle, with regards to the things to say. So just use that as like a tool to guide you, right? Uh, on the other hand, what you can say is, I am here to support you if you need it. I might not know exactly how you're feeling, but I am here for you. I am sure this feels scary and overwhelming. I am here and I want to help you. You are not alone. Help me understand what you are feeling. Together, let's see what support we can get, and I am here to listen. What can I do to help? This is validating the next person's experiences and the next person's feelings. It also shows them that there is at least someone that they can turn to. Rather, there is someone that cares about them, and it also facilitates a space whereby individuals can express themselves easily as they would in a different situation, maybe. So how do you contact us? So these are some of the general lines that you can contact in addition to the higher health number. So we have the suicide crisis helpline, we have the SIPLA mental health helpline, and the substance abuse helpline. So these helplines operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. Then we have the WhatsApp chat line, which operates from 8 a.m. to 5 a.m. And with the WhatsApp chat line, I can definitely attest, as someone who has experience in working in the chat line, there it's actual physical counselors sitting there chatting to you. So it's not AI or chat box or anything. There's counselors manned there chatting to you on a daily basis to provide support and to help you as best as you can. We are aware that a lot of times with young people, they tend to prefer, chatting as opposed to speaking to someone telephonically. So there is an option available for that. Then we also have an SMS number, the general SMS number, which operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Then, without sounding like a marketing, these are the SEDAC social media handles. On these different social media pages, we share a lot of information that you guys can make use of. And I think just to also help build your knowledge, the more knowledgeable you are, the better it is. You can deal with whatever challenges you may come across, or alternatively help the next person. So that ends our presentation for today. Overall, thank you so much for having us, and I really hope that it was a very informative session.